It was my first year at university. I had just finished unpacking my belongings in my room when my family left. Later that day, my roommate finally arrived, and I immediately sensed that he was the most socially awkward person I had ever met. I introduced myself as Dan and extended my arm for a handshake. He paused, looked down at my arm as if confused, then laughed and gave me a weak handshake, akin to a dead fish. He didn't even tell me his name during our handshake, so I had to ask. His name was Dale. I attempted to make small talk, but he responded with only yes or no answers, occasionally offering an awkward laugh or smile. Within minutes, we were both sitting on our beds, absorbed in our laptops and not speaking to each other. I felt frustrated and considered requesting a different roommate. Anyone would be better than Dale. Initially, I thought Dale was just an awkward kid, but I soon realized he was much more than that. I met some other students on my floor, and they seemed cool, which was a relief. When I returned to my dorm after exploring the campus on the first night, I found Dale in the same position he had been in when I left. "What's up, Dale?" I asked, but he didn't respond, which didn't surprise me. It was 9:30 p.m., and with nothing else to do, I turned off the lamp on my side of the room and went to bed. I didn't fall asleep right away, though. Dale stayed on his laptop until 3 a.m. When he finally closed it, I fell asleep quickly, but woke up within the hour. The blinds were open, and moonlight flooded the room, illuminating everything, including Dale, who was sitting on the side of his bed, staring at me. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and asked, "Dale, what the hell are you doing?" He whispered, "Sorry," and lay down. The next morning, I woke up to find that Dale had already gotten up. It felt like the first time he had left the room. It was Saturday, the first Saturday of the year, with orientation and campus festivities underway. During orientation, while my group walked by the school gardens, I overheard a couple of students saying, "What is that kid doing in there?" I turned to see Dale literally sitting in the dirt behind some bushes, rubbing the bark of a tree with his hand. The orientation leader didn't notice, or else I'm sure she would have said something. I walked by without saying anything, eventually telling the two students I overheard that he was my roommate in an attempt to start a conversation and maybe make some friends. They apologized to me. We didn't know whether to laugh or not, but we ended up chuckling together. I made friends with those two students and we made plans to hang out that night. When I returned to my dorm, I learned that the school had found a new roommate for me. Things seemed to be improving quickly. That night, I left my room to meet up with my new friends. When I returned, Dale was sitting in the desk chair, facing the door. "Oh, hey, what's up?" I said. He said nothing, in a very matter-of-fact tone. I sat on my bed and opened my laptop, only to realize I had forgotten to lock it. To my dismay, all my emails had been opened, including some I hadn't read, and several folders had been accessed. When I asked Dale if he had snooped through my laptop, he emphatically replied, "No," before I even finished my question. I could read him like a book. This creepy kid had been going through my computer while I was out. I knew he had done it, but I didn't pursue it further. I was ready to go to bed, but as I searched for my pajamas, it felt like my clothes had been moved around as well. I planned to leave the next day, so I decided not to say anything. That night, I woke up to the sound of a zipper. I sat up and saw Dale on the ground, rummaging through my bag. I turned on the lamp and confronted him. He played dumb, saying, "I think you have my toothbrush by mistake." It was the first time he had shown any wit, but I knew he was lying, and something was seriously wrong with him, so I didn't confront him physically. The next day, I met my new roommate in the same building, and everything went well. Sunday night, after a decent conversation with my new roommate, who wasn't a social butterfly but was miles better than Dale, we both turned off our lights and went to bed. For the third night in a row, I woke up at an odd hour to a strange noise. It was a weird clicking sound, inconsistent but audible at least twice every 30 seconds. I got up, hoping to find something innocent, like a heavy bag pressing on a weak floorboard or even a mouse. As I scoped out the room, I realized the sound was actually coming from the other side of the door. The nightlight in the common area was on, so when I looked through the peephole, I could see the scalp of a person standing outside our door. They were looking down, so I couldn't see their face, But now that I was paying attention, I realized the clicking noises were coming from the doorknob. I was sure the person was trying to unlock the door. I dialed the campus police, and they arrived in under 5 minutes. Only then did I feel safe opening the door. When I did, I found the officers had Dale in handcuffs. I had suspected it was him. I told them everything, that he was my former roommate who had been going through my stuff, which is why I switched dorms, only to find him trying to break into my new dorm. They took him away. I have no idea what happened to him after that. He may have been suspended or expelled. I continued my university experience like anyone else, but the nightmarish encounter with Dale still lingers in my mind. I attended Binghamton University for 2 years, quickly making a large group of friends with whom I went out every weekend. One Friday night in October, when my group didn't have any major plans, 2 close friends and I decided to hang out at the school's nature preserve by the lake. There was a secluded clearing on the far side of the lake that was perfect for fires. Since it was far from the school and campus security, students sometimes used it to smoke pot, drink, and do other drugs. It was a relatively unknown spot on campus, which we appreciated. That night, we brought a bunch of beers, lit a fire, and enjoyed what we referred to as a bro chat. As the night progressed, time flew by as the alcohol took effect. Eventually, we were laughing so hard that one of my friends ended up rolling in the leaves. That's when my other friend suddenly stopped laughing and said, "Shh." We all perked up and listened, hearing the crunching of leaves and branches in the distance. We quickly tossed our bottles into the lake since we were all underage, and it wasn't uncommon for campus police to patrol the woods on weekends to catch students doing drugs. We tucked the remaining beers into a backpack. I was moderately drunk, which heightened my paranoia, a feeling we all shared. The fire illuminated us, making it clear to anyone passing through the woods that we were there. But this spot was so obscure and distant from campus that it was rare to encounter anyone else that deep in the woods. It sounded like just one person approaching us. A loud thud startled all 3 of us. At first, I didn't comprehend what had happened, even though I saw the source of the sound. A branch had been thrown into the center of our campsite. One of my friends took off running, while the other and I exchanged nervous glances, half laughing, half concerned. We weren't sure if this was a prank or something more serious. Then my friend screamed in pain as another branch struck him in the face. I grabbed the backpack, helped him up, and we bolted back toward our dorm. Once we reached the road separating the nature preserve from our dorm, we paused to catch our breath. However, we soon realized that whoever had been out there was following us. We heard footsteps approaching the road. We continued running back to the dorm, and when we reached our floor, we found our other friend already in his room. We looked out his window toward the woods and saw someone pacing back and forth. Every time a car passed, the figure would retreat into the woods. Eventually, the person disappeared for good. We resumed our drinking session in the dorm room, and within 10 minutes, we were all laughing about the incident. It wasn't until the next morning that we realized how terrifying that experience had truly been. After that night, we avoided the woods after dark. This story takes place during the first week of school in my freshman year at the University of Iowa. I was just starting to feel comfortable with my roommate, who was determined to rush a fraternity. Rush week began the following week, but the parties started that Thursday. He didn't want to attend alone, as it would be harder to meet people, so he asked me to join him. I happily agreed, even though I had no intention of rushing a fraternity. After all, I was attending a party school. My roommate wanted to go to one frat party on Thursday, and then attend different frat parties on Friday and Saturday. On that Thursday night, we headed to what was perhaps one of the lowest-ranked frats, which I suspected was underground. His reasoning for going there was to have a backup in case he didn't receive a bid from a higher-ranked house. The frat house was far from campus, located in a rundown area downtown. We arrived at a corner house that, without the blasting music and cars parked everywhere, would not have looked like a frat house at all. We knocked on the door, and were immediately greeted by a short, chubby guy in a sweat-stained white t-shirt holding a solo cup. He told us to come right in. The party was in a dimly lit room, packed with about 50 guys. It was oppressively hot, and I think I spotted only 2 girls, neither of whom were particularly attractive. After about 20 minutes of talking with one overweight foreigner after another, all of whom exuded antisocial vibes, I signaled to my roommate that it was time to leave. However, A large group of guys by the door made us hesitate, so we stayed a little longer to avoid the awkwardness of leaving early. I continued to drink the cheap beer they were serving, downing 5 cups before I even felt a buzz. A heavy-set guy approached me, holding a small bottle, and handed it to me with a smirk. "That'll get you shit-faced," he said. I faked a laugh and thanked him, expecting him to leave, but he just lingered, waiting for me to drink it. So, I did. It was maybe 2 shots of some kind of hard liquor. The guy then struck up a conversation with me, and every time I hinted that I wanted to leave, he pulled me further into a one-sided dialogue. Things soon became blurry. I remember feeling dizzy, and the room seemed to darken. That was the last thing I recalled before waking up in a dark room, lying in a bed. I could hear muffled music behind closed doors, indicating I was still in the frat house. The room was very dark, but I could make out some furniture and a small closet door. Even over the loud music, I heard the sound of a plastic bag being crunched, as if someone had stepped on it. I bolted out of that room and down the stairs, back to the overcrowded living room. I found my roommate and pulled him outside, away from the group of guys still standing near the door. During the car ride back to campus, I told my roommate I believed I had been drugged. He nearly called the police, but I insisted it would be foolish and pointless. He then asked an awkward question. "Were you taken advantage of?" I didn't feel any pain, and my clothes were still on, so I assumed not. When I checked the time, I realized I had only been out for about 10 minutes before waking up. Whatever the guy had given me must have been a dud, thank God. That was my college experience at an underground frat party, and it remains my scariest life experience. In my sophomore year, I had a single dorm for the first semester. It was in a secluded corner of the floor, requiring a turn to even see the door. This arrangement was nice. I could still socialize with friends on my floor while enjoying privacy for studying or sleeping. A few weeks into the semester, while studying for a biology exam, I was interrupted by a faint tapping on the door. It was so light that I almost didn't hear it. I yelled, "Come in!" But the door didn't open, so I got up to check. Nobody was there. I walked around the corner to look down the hall, but I saw no one. Someone had to be messing with me. I returned to my bed and continued studying, leaving the door open this time. No one came back. The next night, shortly after shutting off my lamp to go to bed, the tapping returned, this time louder, resembling knocking. I called out, "Who is it?" But the knocking stopped, and no one answered. I quickly got out of bed and opened the door, only to find my small corridor empty. I sprinted down the short hallway and turned the corner, only to see someone disappearing down the opposite side of the hallway. I ran as fast as I could, and when I reached the area where I had seen the figure moments earlier, I noticed a door at the end of the hallway closing. It wasn't a dorm room. It was a bathroom. Feeling brave, I pushed open the bathroom door forcefully. The light was off, so I turned it on, expecting to find someone hiding inside. Instead, I found nothing. My instinct was to check the 2 stalls, both of which were closed. I got on my hands and knees and looked under the doors. I saw 2 heavy black boots beneath one of the stall doors. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the stall open. I was confused. The boots were on the floor, but there was no person to wear them. Then I heard a creepy giggle, not a feminine or childlike laugh, but more like the unsettling laughter of a very old man. My confidence vanished, and I was terrified, so I sprinted back to my room and shut the door. I hopped back into bed and started texting every friend I had, but of course, everyone was asleep. The knocking occurred one more time that night. I ignored it as it continued for about 30 seconds before the person finally gave up. The next day, I spoke to everyone on my floor. Nobody else had heard any knocking, and everyone swore they weren't pranking me. They all seemed sincere. I don't know why this person chose to harass me or who they were. Based on the boots and the laughter I heard, I suspected it was an older man, and that thought disturbed me. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to check out more terrifying tales by clicking on the pop-up videos above. There's more horror waiting for you.